168 children. That is not a number from a war movie. That is not a headline from a foreign government's propaganda channel. That is the documented death toll confirmed by CNN, Reuters, the New York Times, the Associated Press, and a preliminary United States military investigation from a single Tomahawk cruise missile that struck the Shajara Girls Elementary School in Minab, Iran on the morning of February 28, 2026. The day Operation Epic Fury began, the day the school was in session, the girls were between 7 and 12 years old. I have been going through the documents since the first reports broke, the CNN investigation, the Reuters exclusive, the Washington Post's bombshell about the AI targeting system, the New York Times preliminary inquiry report, the UN Human Rights Office statement, the UNESCO declaration, the Senate letter signed by 45 senators demanding answers from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Here is what I found. The mainstream coverage is giving you the headline. Nobody is putting the documents together in one place and showing you the full picture. What the documents show when you read them page by page is worse than any single headline has suggested. It is not just a tragic mistake. It is a story about an AI targeting system that flagged a girls' school as a military installation. A president who went on camera and blamed Iran for a strike his own military was already investigating as their own. A defense secretary who testified before Congress and appeared to not know the preliminary findings his own department had already produced. And 175 families, because the number keeps rising, who buried children this week that the United States government has still not formally acknowledged killing. Let me show you exactly what the documents say, because you deserve to read the actual evidence, not just the official statements, before we go deeper into the documents, the timeline, what the AI targeting system actually did, what Trump said versus what his own military investigators found, and why 45 U.S. senators are now demanding answers that the Pentagon has still not given. Quick context. Operation Epic Fury began on February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities, missile infrastructure, and military command centers. Within the first hours of the operation, a Tomahawk cruise missile struck the city of Minab in Iran's Hormuz province, a coastal city in southern Iran near the Strait of Hormuz. Adjacent to a naval base in Minab sits the Shajara Girls Primary School. Iran operates a 6-day school week. Saturday, February 28th, was a school day. The girls were in class when the missile hit. Timeline fast version. February 28th, approximately 7:22 a.m. local time. A Tomahawk cruise missile strikes Minab. Iranian state media immediately reports that a girls' school has been destroyed. Initial death toll reported as 120. Iranian officials blame the United States directly. Hours later, President Trump speaking to reporters says, "We think it was done by Iran because they're very inaccurate with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran." He cited no evidence. March 1st, the Pentagon declines to comment, citing an ongoing investigation. March 3rd, Iran's death toll rises. Iranian officials now report at least 168 children and 14 adults dead, with many more injured. March 5th, the New York Times publishes its first analysis suggesting the school was struck as part of a U.S. attack on the adjacent Iranian naval base. March 6th, Reuters publishes an exclusive. U.S. investigation points to likely U.S. responsibility in the Iran school strike. March 6th, CNN publishes analysis suggesting U.S. responsibility for the deadly strike on the Iranian elementary school. March 9th, CNN publishes new video footage showing a U.S. Tomahawk missile striking the naval base directly adjacent to the school seconds before the school collapsed. March 11th, the Washington Post publishes its bombshell. The school was on the United States military's AI-generated target list and may have been mistakenly flagged as a military facility. The same day, the New York Times publishes the preliminary inquiry results. U.S. at fault. Outdated targeting data, a targeting error. March 12th, 45 United States senators sign a letter demanding answers from Pete Hegseth. March 12th, the UN Human Rights Office releases a formal condemnation. The evidence starts with the Washington Post investigation published March 11th because it contains the detail that changes this entire story. The Post reports the school building was on the American list of targets and could have been mistaken for a military facility. The United States military in Operation Epic Fury used an AI targeting system, specifically the combination of Claude, the AI model from Anthropic, integrated with Palantir's Maven Smart system for real-time targeting and target identification during the opening hours of strikes on Iran. Investigators believe the AI system may have mistaken the school for the adjacent naval base facility. The reporting points to a targeting error embedded in the AI system itself, used specifically because of the speed required in the opening hours of the operation. Put those together. An AI system generates a target list that includes a girls' school, either because it was misidentified as part of the naval base or because the database contained outdated information. A Tomahawk missile is launched at the target. 168 children die. The pattern is unmistakable. Every major American news organization, CNN, NBC, AP, Reuters, NYT, Washington Post, has independently arrived at the same conclusion from independent sourcing. The United States fired the missile. The U.S. military's own investigation confirms it. The evidence is in the video footage, the satellite imagery, the target list, and the preliminary inquiry. The United Nations Human Rights Office released a formal statement expressing profound shock and grief after a girls' primary school in Minab in Iran's Hormuz province was struck. Schools are civilian objects and children are expressly protected under international humanitarian law. This attack must be independently investigated. UNESCO released a separate statement calling the bombing a grave violation of humanitarian law and demanding accountability. The UN General Assembly issued a statement. 32 countries formally condemned the strike at the UN Human Rights Council. The International Committee of the Red Cross called for an independent investigation. China announced it will donate $200,000 to the parents of the Minab students. This is not one organization reacting. This is the entire international legal and humanitarian architecture responding in unison to a single event. And the United States government's response as of today has been an ongoing investigation, no formal admission of responsibility, no public apology, and a president who initially blamed the victim's country for killing its own children. The other side has points too. The Trump administration's defenders argue this was a genuine military mistake, not a war crime. The school was adjacent to an active Iranian military naval base that was a legitimate target. The U.S. was not deliberately targeting children. Targeting errors occur in every conflict in history. The death toll remains disputed. Iranian state media initially reported 120, then 168, then 175. And the Iranian government has a documented history of inflating casualty numbers for propaganda. The war itself was launched specifically to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons that could kill millions. The moral calculus of civilian deaths versus the potential deaths from a nuclear-armed Iran is a legitimate strategic argument. But here is what even the most sympathetic analysis cannot explain away. Trump went on camera and blamed Iran while his own military investigators had already begun a probe pointing to American responsibility. Pete Hegseth appeared before the Senate and gave answers senators described as evasive and incomplete about an investigation his own department was conducting. The school was on the United States AI-generated target list, not a conventional human error, but a systemic failure in the technology being used to identify targets. As of today, there has been no formal statement of responsibility and no apology. The UN, UNESCO, the Red Cross, 32 nations, and now China have all called for accountability. The United States has issued zero formal acknowledgement. What the documents show is a Tomahawk cruise missile fired by U.S. forces hitting a facility that was on a U.S.-generated target list, adjacent to and apparently confused with an Iranian naval base, killing a minimum of 168 children between the ages of 7 and 12 on a Saturday morning when they were in school. This story is about the system your country is using to decide who dies in war. The AI targeting system that flagged the Shajara Taybeh Girls Elementary School as a potential military target. The same system that caused a Tomahawk cruise missile to kill 168 children on a Saturday morning is an American system built by American companies, funded by American taxpayer dollars, approved by American military commanders. And it made a catastrophic error. How the Trump administration responded made it worse. February 28th, President Trump told reporters Iran did it, no evidence, no caveat. March 1st, the Pentagon declines to comment. March 3rd, Trump says he doesn't know about the military investigation. March 6th, Reuters publishes its exclusive. The White House still does not issue a formal correction. March 9th, CNN publishes video evidence. March 11th, The Washington Post publishes the AI targeting system report. The Pentagon's response: the investigation is ongoing and we will not comment further. The same day, 45 senators send a letter to Pete Hegseth. As of today, no substantive public response has been received. The Shajara Taybeh Girls Elementary School in Minab, Iran, was struck by a Tomahawk cruise missile on February 28, 2026, the first day of Operation Epic Fury. At least 168 children between the ages of 7 and 12 were killed along with 14 adults. A preliminary United States military inquiry has found U.S. forces were responsible. The cause was a targeting error attributed to outdated intelligence and an AI targeting system that may have misclassified the school as a military facility. President Trump initially blamed Iran for the strike with no evidence, while his own military was already investigating U.S. responsibility. No formal U.S. acknowledgement of responsibility has been issued. No apology has been made. International condemnation is widespread and formal. The presidential statement blaming Iran was factually inaccurate. What is confirmed? U.S. Tomahawk missiles struck the school. U.S. preliminary investigation found U.S. responsibility. Outdated intelligence and AI targeting error cited as the cause. At least 168 children confirmed dead. The Maven AI targeting system remains operational. Here is what I know right now with certainty. 168 children went to school in Minab, Iran on a Saturday morning. They did not come home. A U.S. Tomahawk missile killed them. The U.S. military's own preliminary investigation says so. The president said Iran did it. He was wrong. And the administration has still not formally said those three words. We are responsible. That is not speculation. Those are the documented facts. Drop your prediction in the comments. Do you think Trump will formally acknowledge U.S. responsibility? Will Pete Hegseth resign? Will the Maven AI system be suspended? This story is not over. And those 168 children deserve more than a headline that fades.